Your 9-month-old isn't throwing tantrums because they're spoiled or difficult. They're experiencing genuine terror, and modern pediatric science has only recently understood why. For 8 months, your baby was content with anyone holding them. Then, seemingly overnight, they scream when grandma approaches, panic when you leave the room, and cling to you like their life depends on it. Because in their mind, it absolutely does. This isn't a phase parents should simply endure. It's a neurological transformation that reveals something profound about human survival. Pediatricians call it separation anxiety, but that clinical term masks a startling truth. Your baby has just realized they could die. What evolutionary trigger at exactly 9 months causes this primal fear to suddenly activate? And why did natural selection program every human infant to experience this terror at precisely the same developmental window? To understand this fear, we need to travel back 200,000 years to the African savanna where Homo sapiens first emerged. For the first 8 months of life, human babies are essentially immobile. They can't crawl away from danger, can't feed themselves, can't escape predators. Evolution's solution was elegantly simple. Make infants psychologically comfortable with any caregiver so the tribe could share childcare duties while parents hunted and gathered. But around 9 months, everything changes. Babies become mobile. They can crawl, explore, and most critically, they can get themselves killed. Crawling into fire, wandering toward predators, eating poisonous plants, or simply getting lost. This newfound mobility created an evolutionary crisis that required an immediate psychological adaptation. Nature's answer wasn't to make babies more independent. It was to make them absolutely terrified of being separated from their primary caregiver. But mobility alone doesn't explain the terror. The real neurological breakthrough happening at 9 months is called object permanence, the cognitive understanding that things continue to exist even when you can't see them. Before this developmental milestone, when you left the room, you literally ceased to exist in your baby's mind. No memory, no longing, no fear. You were simply gone from reality itself. Psychologist Jean Piaget discovered this through simple experiments. Show a baby a toy, cover it with a blanket, and babies under 8 months act as though the toy vanished from existence entirely. They don't look for it because in their cognitive model of reality, it no longer exists. But at 9 months, babies suddenly understand hidden objects are still there. This sounds like progress, and it is, but it comes with a terrifying cost. Now when you leave, your baby knows you exist somewhere without them, and their primitive brain interprets this as mortal danger. Inside your baby's brain, the amygdala, the fear center, is undergoing explosive development at exactly this age. Neuroscientists using functional MRI scans have discovered that between 8 and 10 months, the connections between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex multiply rapidly, creating what researchers call the first genuine fear circuitry. Before 9 months, babies have startle reflexes and discomfort responses, but not true psychological fear of future danger. The amygdala now connects incoming sensory information with emotional memories and survival predictions. When a stranger approaches, the amygdala runs a threat assessment. This person is not mother. Mother provides food and protection. Without mother, I will die. Therefore, this stranger represents mortal danger. It's completely illogical by adult standards. But for a 9-month-old with newly mobile legs and newly awakened awareness, this fear response kept our ancestors alive for millennia. This creates what developmental psychologists call the proximity paradox. The same mobility that allows babies to explore their world also triggers an overwhelming need to stay close to caregivers. Watch a 9-month-old in a safe space, and you'll see this paradox in action. They crawl away to investigate something interesting, then suddenly panic and rush back to touch their parent, then venture out again, then rush back. This isn't indecisiveness. It's a carefully calibrated survival algorithm. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer tribes found that 9-month-olds who wandered more than 10 feet from their mothers had significantly higher mortality rates from accidents and predation. The babies who survived to pass on their genes were the ones whose brains screamed danger signals the moment their caregiver was out of sight. Your baby's clinginess isn't dysfunction. It's the same genetic programming that kept your ancestors alive long enough to eventually become you. When your 9-month-old screams as you leave, their body undergoes a genuine stress response. Researchers measuring infant cortisol levels during separation found that babies this age experience cortisol spikes comparable to adults facing genuine threats. Their heart rate increases, stress hormones flood their bloodstream, and their nervous system enters fight or flight mode. Except they can't fight and they can't flee. So they do the only thing available: scream for the person who represents survival. This isn't manipulation or bad behavior. Studies using saliva samples showed these cortisol levels remain elevated for up to an hour after reunion, meaning the physiological stress is real and prolonged. But here's what's crucial for parents to understand. This stress response, while uncomfortable, is actually healthy. Babies who don't develop separation anxiety at this age often show developmental delays or attachment disorders. The terror your baby feels is paradoxically a sign their brain is developing exactly as evolution designed. Here's where modern parenting collides with ancient biology. We live in the only period of human history where 9-month-olds are regularly separated from their primary caregivers. For 99% of human existence, babies were carried constantly, slept beside parents, and were never more than arm's reach away. Daycare, separate nurseries, and independent sleep training are radical experiments that began less than a century ago. A blink in evolutionary time. Anthropologist Sarah Hrdy studied infant care across 68 cultures and found that continuous physical proximity was universal until industrialization. Your baby's brain is running 200,000-year-old software in a 21st century environment. They can't comprehend that you're just in the next room checking email. Their amygdala only knows that predators strike when mothers are absent. This mismatch between biology and modern life is why 9-month separation anxiety feels so intense, and why traditional advice to just let them cry it out conflicts with every survival instinct your baby possesses. And now you know why your 9-month-old transformed overnight from content baby to terrified clinger. This is the answer to our opening question. Evolution programmed this fear response at exactly 9 months, because that's when mobility makes independence lethal. But here's what makes this knowledge powerful. Understanding the terror helps you respond appropriately. When you consistently return after separations, you're not just soothing your baby. You're teaching their amygdala that the world is safe, that caregivers return, that fear doesn't have to be permanent. Psychologist Mary Ainsworth's longitudinal studies prove that babies whose parents responded sensitively to separation anxiety became more independent toddlers, not less. The 9-month terror isn't something to eliminate. It's something to honor while teaching your baby the single most important lesson of early childhood: that even when scared, even when separated, they are fundamentally safe. That lesson becomes the foundation of secure attachment, emotional regulation, and lifelong resilience. Your baby's terror today is building their courage for tomorrow.